Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 56th Live Cybersecurity Awareness Forum panel session. Today, we're going to explore AI-powered cyber attacks on employees and what organizations are doing to help their employees in managing them. So I'm Scott Wright, CEO and Chief Engagement Officer at ClickArmor, and your host for today's session. The CSAF is an open collaboration group for anyone who's passionate about security awareness, human risk management, all those good things. And if you're a security awareness manager, security professional, or business manager, you're in the right place if you're interested in this stuff. We've got a remarkable panel of security experts today, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves in a minute. But this session is brought to you by ClickArmor, the employee cyber conference builder. If you're looking for more engaging employee cybersecurity training and more effective ways to train your staff that are easy to deploy, I'd love to talk to you. So I'll share a little bit more about ClickArmor later, but just before I introduce the panelists, I just have a reminder for everyone who's just joined us on the in the audience. If you could type in the chat where you're coming from around the world, I like to do a little bit of a roundtable roll call and see where we're getting people from. But if you haven't joined us before, we do this in a sort of informal format. I'll do a little bit of context, and actually I'll have Jason and Chris do a little bit of upfront discussion as well about some of the stories we'd like to talk about. And throughout the session, I'll ask three poll questions to the audience. I'd love to have your input on these things. It provides insight for everybody that we review at the end. And we also have three poll questions. If we have time for all of them, that's great. Not poll questions, open questions for the panel that are for discussion, just to spark discussion and see where we can go. So as usual, let's meet our esteemed group of panelists. I'm going to ask Jason, Clinton, and Chris to do just a 1 or 2 minute intro. Let us know who you are, what you're doing, and what we can learn from you. So Jason, go ahead.
Cool. I'll go first. My name is Jason. I'm the founder of Breacher.ai. And we're focused on deepfake simulations. So think of phishing beyond the email inbox and deepfake red teaming. And I have my counterpart Clinton on this call as well, who is our deepfake master. He's creating some of the most realistic deepfakes I've seen, which is awesome. So
That's so cool. Is Clinton going to speak or to
Sure, no,
introduce himself?
I can hop on. Thanks,
Yeah,
everyone.
sure.
So yeah, I call myself the deep fake artist in residence at Breacher, but I've been working in voice AI for more than a decade now, and uh, I knew deepfakes were becoming an issue, and I've actually done some work with deepfake detection too. And I hate to say it, but the deepfake detectors of the world are losing the arms race to the deep fakers. And so came over to the dark side and get to show people what's possible with deepfakes. It's a lot of fun.
That's cool. And a great comment from Stephen here. Is that really Clinton speaking, or is that just a deep fake? I don't know. So we'll see. Chris, I'll have you next, and then Fleetus.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, Scott. So Chris Ellis here. I'm a consultant working in cybersecurity. I had spent like 15 years at McAfee, so I had a lot of customer interaction. I was a system engineer, which is the technical part of the sales team, right? So a lot of FaceTime with customers, doing a lot of cyber product installations and stuff like that. Most recently, though, I'm on contract with Circadence, and we do gamified labs, mostly on the Microsoft security tool set.
Cool.
And some of the what I bring to that workshop is what I'll talk about today, stuff where AI is impacting it, and it's probably a lot of common knowledge. I'll just share some of the stories that I've come across. But yeah, thanks, Scott.
Excellent. Thanks, Chris. And Fleetus.
Felice Poston, currently serve as a security operations manager for a company called CrashPlan. Very much love being here. I like this community and excited to share my insights and learn from the rest of you today.
That is amazing. As I said at the beginning, I'm Scott Wright, the CEO of ClickArmor. We started ClickArmor 5-6 years ago. I've done cybersecurity consulting. I'm actually an engineer by training, but got really interested in the human side of cybersecurity, the vulnerabilities and things that, 15 years ago, not many people were thinking about, how employees were going to be targeted and what they would need to do. So that brought me along the path to creating ClickArmor not too long ago. So let's just do a quick roundtable on the chat and see where people are coming from. I see Ohio. I see where else? Victoria, BC. Good day, Frederick. Elizabeth from Calgary. Aaron, welcome, Aaron. Haven't talked to you in a long time. From New Hampshire. Chase from Kentucky. Awesome. Norman in Omaha. Fabiola in Waterloo. Garth in Newfoundland. I can't read all these. San Diego. Sorry if I don't get your names, but North Carolina, and Ottawa, Nova Scotia, Toronto, Palm Springs, Calgary. Man, it just goes on and on. This is the biggest session we've had in probably a year or so. So welcome, everybody. Let's get started. I'm just going to go back to my shared screen and give you a little bit of context for what we're talking about today. And if you're up to it, or if you have questions or comments, definitely feel free to write them in the chat. I know people aren't shy about putting in the chat now. They've said where they're coming from. So pardon me, if you have questions or comments, just feel free to enter them in the chat and we will try to address them. So I just wanted to sort of give a little bit of context from my point of view. We work with a lot of organizations that are starting to see more AI based attacks on them. So, there are different scenarios, different types of attacks. I'm sure that Jason and the other panelists will get into this, but just the way I look at it is, there are employer to employee attacks. So people getting maybe a voicemail that sounds like their boss telling them to do something. There are supplier vendor to customers, so getting them to maybe do things like make payments or change banking information. And then there's what I would say government or authorities to citizens, trying to scare people into making payments. May or may not be as much AI involved in that, but be interesting just to hear. And then citizen to citizen, are there people impersonating relatives, the old Facebook scam where you'd be approached saying, I'm your grandson. I'm in jail in London, England, and need 9,000 pounds to get out, and things like that. Are we impersonating, or are the attackers impersonating relatives on the personal level? The methods are usually, initial outreach. I think some kind of exploitation, whether it's via live inquiries, phone, or email messages. But then I think once if somebody's fallen for any kind of a phishing message, it leaves them open to something more convincing, either on the landing pages or by triggered apps or things like that. So it'll be interesting to hear what we have and what we can learn about how those things may play into it. If people do fall for the first phishing attack, how can they, maybe get a little smarter about what they are seeing next? I use the term comparative advantage just to say this is something that we hear a lot now in AI, where AI is good at some things or much better at some things than humans are. And so we're seeing the advantage of, attackers have in creating more relevant content and better context, understanding more about, the person they're targeting and what they would respond to. And then exploiting non-standard character sets. This is something I've heard about a long time ago, where you could use some kind of Unicode or other kinds of characters. I'm not an expert on it, but I know you can create characters that look very similar to those that people would recognize, but they're not actually the same characters. So you can spoof domains and things like that. I don't know if that's being done or if that's part of an AI attack. Be good to hear about that too. And then, of course, deepfake images, audios, and video. So I'm just going to talk about a couple of attacks that I've come across in the news that I thought were really interesting. And a quote from some CEOs saying that the biggest threat to personal security is the voicemail greeting recorded on your smartphone, and you should erase it immediately. I'd never heard that, actually, but it makes sense because I think attackers are starting to sample those and impersonate you based on your own voicemail message. So some interesting discussions there. We know about I think it was the Hong Kong attack. I'm sure Jason and Clinton will be able to talk about that one a little bit, where one of the accounting employees was literally in a Zoom call. They didn't realize people were fake in the call, and they took some instructions that didn't have a good outcome for them. The MGM attack, we hear a lot about how that affected multi-factor authentication vulnerabilities, but I didn't realize it till later. But it all started with, I believe, a deepfake call, and so we can talk about that one a little bit. I'll start the poll, but I'd like to open it up at this point to I'll start with Jason, just to say, if you have any initial thoughts or a story you'd like to share, and we could certainly share other stories as we go forward. We've got other open questions that you can use as an example as well. So go ahead, Jason, if you have some thoughts.
Yeah, so I think we're all aware that deepfakes have exploded right in the past year or so. And biggest concern that I have right now is actually voice phishing. I think it's really the big danger, and then video conferencing as well. So focusing on the right vector and the right threat, I think it's really important. It's synthetic media and voice phishing, voicemails, and that phone call as well. Our stats from our red teaming combined from all of these attack simulations that we've done points to a really scary number, and I'll just highlight it real quick. Can I screen share or no? Am I
Yeah,
allowed
sure.
to?
Go ahead.
Okay,
You'd have access.
cool. Let me explain these numbers real quick. So 1762.78, right? 17% is a number that I care about the most. And that's not click-through rate, right? It's not someone clicking on an email. That's someone taking an action that can directly lead to financial loss. And that is freaking terrifying to me. The average security incident right now for a deepfake is about $603,000 per incident, which is mind-blowing, right? So that 17% is give up your credentials, is going to be do a wire transfer or divulge sensitive data. That's a real danger, right? 78% of organizations are vulnerable. That means that at least one or more user in their user base clicked on an email, gave up their credentials, along those lines. So it's a bigger threat than we all think, right? And I just want to kind of highlight that point that it's an emerging threat, and it's much more dangerous than we all kind of think or pause. But yep, that's it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll let Clinton, if you have any added notes in terms of what Jason said.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a sales rep, but I do try to be honest about some things. So it's not that easy to make a compelling deep fake with just vendor tools in 20 minutes on a laptop, right? I've seen that oversold. You can do it, but it's not going to convince a whole lot of people. But advanced persistent threat groups or organized crime who have high profile threat targets, the amount of work that you need to do to create a really good and compelling and a deepfake that's going to fool people that know you and know your voice and know your speaking cadence and prosody and intonations and stuff. That is possible. It just takes work and money and time and some technical skill. So that's one thing I'd say, but it's also happening. I mean, we've had senators who have taken live video calls with a person that they know in real life and weren't immediately able to tell was actually a deep fake. And that was surely a Russian APT that was doing that. I don't know if it was proven, but who else would have done that? The group that went after that Hong Kong bank, that poor accountant was on with 3 of his C-levels, and all 3 of them were deep fakes. None of them were real.
Yeah.
That takes money, time, and effort, but it absolutely is possible. A lot of what our customers are testing for when they use us is to see what can be done with open source information. And every executive in the world has more than enough open source information available to do some crazy stuff with, right? If you've got a bunch of interviews and podcasts on YouTube, hate to tell you, but there it is, and that's what we're looking for. So, yeah, I'd push back a little bit on the, oh, if you have a voice message that says your name and saying hi, that someone could take that and make a voice clone with it. You could. Is that voice clone going to fool anybody? I'm not sure. In fact, I'd say it wouldn't. But the absolute threat is real. I can deep fake people all the time, and if you put a lot of work into knowing who they are and how they speak, and putting that these natural pauses and slowing down your speech and intonation and stuff into the text to speech, that's what will fool people. People still expect that text to speech voice clones are going to sound robotic, and most do. But you can do that. You can change that. You can make them sound like humans because you force them to make mistakes. They'll stumble over words, right? All of that. It's absolutely doable. So long rant, but that's what I'll do.
All right. Well, we're getting some interesting facial and body language from Fleetus, who's maybe got some observations
Yeah,
to the
so
contrary.
Clinton, your comment was correct probably 6 months ago. I just sat through a presentation last week where at the beginning of the meeting, so this was like 8:15, they captured 2 minutes worth of recording. Within 30 minutes of the meeting being done with, they had used open source tools. And before they got up to do their presentation on synthetic voice, they mimicked the MC spot on with a video and a
Nice.
voice.
No, you could totally do that. You're right.
And it took him 20 minutes to do this
For
with
sure.
open source, non-paid tools. So with a paid tool of 15, 20 bucks, I can probably do it in minutes in April of 2025. So I've had my voice cloned. I've cloned my voice. I've sent it to a family member, even with some of those calls. And if it wasn't for tips and tricks that we've shared on previous podcasts, and we'll probably talk about here, of them asking it a question, it would have been able to, because it actually was reactive enough. Was built into OBS, it built into Pause, and it was able to interactively talk to them.
Oh
with
yeah.
my voice. And the only reason it failed is because they asked the secret question that I've told them to ask, and it could not answer it.
That is absolutely the right thing to do. You're what
And
you
the
are
other
on
one
it.
is a video editing. We did a video of me, and the tips and tricks I told them is have them reach behind you and grab something, or slowly put their hand in front of their face, and you can immediately figure out if they're using voice cloning. I can do that. We can talk about the North Korean stuff. We can talk about how they've infiltrated a lot of organizations. Just having someone reach behind and grab something, yes, I have a virtual backdrop on, so it's a little harder, or just have them wave their hand, because the amount of white it's taking to read is easily to detect by tooling now. And this is just nominal commercial tooling. So this is getting better and better. And that's why I said your comment 6 months ago would have been 100% correct. I'd probably say it's like 40 to 50% correct in April of 25.
Here I am hanging out with experts. Love it. Love it. You're totally right. I agree with everything you said.
Thanks, Fleetus. Chris, any final thoughts on our initial context?
Yeah, I just want to reference back to something that both Jason and Clinton kind of said, and it's really just one of the mantras I've always used when I deliver these workshops, because it's people that are, not experts that join these workshops, people that should be taking your security awareness training, for example, because I always say that, go back 10 or 15 years, it was really easy to pick off phishing emails, right? The grammar was terrible. The language, was just spelling was awful. The grammar was atrocious. You could just go, yeah, this is fake, right? So obviously that's where they've really focused with AI, the ability to really create really realistic grammar, context sensitive to the user they're attacking. And that's the whole point. It really is a lot of targeted, so they will record CEOs' voices. I had a little clip I wanted to share with you too, and I'll just reference it. But last year it was a CEO's voice was mimicked to a CFO who was given instructions to do a wire transfer, and the CFO did the wire transfer because it was so believable. I mean, that's the state of it for sure. I think we're all sharing the same story.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to harp on the fact that phishing is still the number one breach method. The number two is compromised credentials, people being approached possibly by, hey, do you want $100,000 to share your company's credentials? And the insider threat is always going to be there for sure. But phishing is still number one. And I have a statistic here. I'll just show you. It comes up on one of the workshops I have. I'll just share it real quickly because it kind of blows my mind. Can you see my screen there?
Yep.
Yeah, it still blows my mind. 83% of organizations experience more than one data breach. I mean, geez, don't you think after you've had one data breach, you would sort of be taking care of your house? It's like having a house fire and then 2 months later having another house fire. It's like, what are you fundamentally doing wrong? And I know what they're doing wrong is they're not doing any security awareness training for sure. So the fact that, yes, it used to be easy and maybe you're still thinking it's easy. I can tell what a phishing email looks like. You can't. And they breach on your trust, right? They know that Bob knows Sue is the FedEx person, sees him every day. And when he gets a fake email from Sue, that's very well crafted, very believable because of the way the IA's done its research and targeted that. Bob is very likely going to go, oh, it's Sue. I know Sue. I see her every day. Click. So that's really hard for them to resist that. And then combine that with the fact that still 83% are still getting breached more than once, it tells me that A, they're doing something wrong and they continue to keep doing something wrong. So that's my little
Jason, you have your hand up.
Yeah, you hit on something, and it's security awareness training, right? It is absolutely fundamental. Just being aware of these threats. We see as a tight correlation. We can go in hot to an organization that have not done awareness training, and the outcome is typically poor, right? But the ones that take the time to actually educate their user base prior, they perform much better. It's night and day. It's a huge difference. So I can't preach this enough. Security awareness training, just making your users aware, is literally one of the best things that you can do in my mind.
Thanks for that observation, Jason. Helps us a lot. It's certainly at Click Armor. But I wanted to just go back to the deck and just let people know we just finished the poll. I just closed this one, but for the benefit of people watching the recording later, the first poll question was: has your organization experienced an AI-powered cyber attack targeting employees in the past 12 months? And so we got 20 or so responses to that. So we'll come back to that at the end. So the next open question for the panel and for anybody to comment on the chat is: what are the most important recently published incidents that provide lessons learned about AI threats that target employees? So when I say this, I'm thinking in terms of teachable elements that when we learn of an attack, sometimes it's, well, we need better two-factor authentication. But are there particular stories that you guys like that illustrate, how an employee could have avoided something if they had knowledge, for example? So what kinds of things can we share about just the stories? Which stories are most educational in that respect? And from my point of view, I think the Hong Kong one is really important because you would really not expect that an employee wouldn't spot a fake among three people in a Zoom session that were all being impersonated. So I think the number one lesson there in using that story is it can happen to anybody, and anybody can be targeted, right? So that's sort of my feeling on it. Anybody in the panel want to start it off with an observation in that area?
I can go. It's more of a personal incident. The one of the more recent ones was the lady who was scammed out of 830,000 euros for the Brad Pitt scheme, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's very interesting. People came out and they're like, she's an idiot. Why would she ever fall for that? And victim shaming is absolutely the wrong approach in any circumstances. You should never victim shame. But if you dig deeper and you actually look, she was in the middle of a divorce, right? She was vulnerable. She didn't know about Photoshop. She didn't know about deepfake, right? And she fell victim. It sounds outrageous, but it's if people are not aware of these, they may fall victim in these circumstances. And I think just taking a moment to talk to your loved ones, your family, anyone that's vulnerable is just really a fundamental critical step that everyone should do. Like if you have kids, elderly, hey, it's a simple conversation. This lady just lost 800,000 euros because she didn't know about any of this. So I fundamentally believe that awareness is the first step that you should take.
Excellent. Chris, any thoughts on which stories are you find most useful from an educational point of view?
Yeah, there's a couple of stories that I had kind of done some, I've had in my bag of tricks for some time that I use as examples, but one was where a security team documented a 3-week long conversation between an employee and somebody who they believed was a vendor. And it turned out that it was actually an AI system just continuously working with them to gather more and more information. So that always, to me, the fundamental thing I think people maybe not understand is how targeted it is and how much time they are willing to spend on getting it right.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an ad hoc thing. Like, again, you go back to those 15 years ago, it was, bad English. They were just hoping that somebody would click on it, right?
Yeah.
You're right. Victim shaming, you're right. But, to click on something that's obviously that bad takes a real lack of education or lack of concern. I think most of us are more concerned now, but in also the transition I'm seeing, instead of spot the error, it's more spot the source, look for the source, being educated. And I think, again, that's part of the security awareness training that I'm always preaching to, is know how to handle things. I just have the spidey sense. I know I'm a security guy, but whenever I get anything, I go, oh yeah, that sounds legit, but I still don't believe it. Even when I get birthday cards for my family, I still don't click on those links, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
you have to be a little paranoid, but you also have to be, that have that awareness that you have to do something about it. Looking at the more advanced threats against, like I talked about the CEO who gave instructions to the CFO, I was, looking at ways to prevent that, and some of them are to use out of band communication channels,
Mhm.
which means you have to have it. There's like almost like it's works along with MFA, but you
Right.
have two channels instead of using the same channel. Like, oh, I got instructions, I'll transfer. You have another validation channel that you have to go through. It's a bit more laborious. It takes more time, and that will annoy people. It's
Yeah.
that old security, too much security. People are going to find a way to work around it, so it has to work with the flow. But adding a pause, before a high value transaction can take place makes a lot of sense. And
Yeah.
having to have a validated secondary channel, which in the case even of the seniors that are
Yeah.
getting spammed,
And I
they
think,
have to, they forced to have to get a call from the bank, and it's going to take at least 24 hours before the transaction goes through. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, I'm sure when I'm looking for these kinds of stories, one of the things that we look for is what are the methods used that we can explain to people, that they could use, or that they could use to recognize the attack. And in a lot of cases, there's that social engineering aspect, right, of emotional triggers, trying to put people in a situation where they are under a time pressure
Yeah,
or
it's
some
urgent.
some kind of scary situation, right? So those are the kinds of stories I think that are really useful. Fleetus, do you have any thoughts?
So we've mentioned it a few times here. It's make it personal. Talk about how it could apply to you. The voicemail thing is something that I've been telling people, and they always say my voice isn't out there. And I'm like, have you ever done any interview? Have you ever posted a video on Facebook of you singing happy birthday to your kids? Have you put any kind of voice cloning out there or capabilities to clone it? And then they're like, yes.
Hmm.
So going back to my story earlier to Clinton, it's just finding ways to do just in time verification. So helping them understand, just like you have MFA or one time passcodes, you could do the same thing with voice or video and teaching them that it's okay to ask. So, like, grew up this way. My parents always said, here's the word I'll give if a stranger picks you up. Well, that was taught to me as a young kid that if someone other than mom and dad is to pick me up from school, they need to be able to give me the passphrase or the password. Well, I taught my kids the same thing. Be comfortable asking questions, even if they sound like fun. So, like, my question is where's the car parked? The bot's going to say the driveway, the garage, the parking deck. It's going to pick something logical. Where my answer may be, in this case, I'm making it up. It's blue fairy dust or something off the wall. Same thing with
Yeah.
you, like your secret questions we talked
Something
about.
AI can't predict. Absolutely
Yeah.
smart. Yeah.
Something that is not predictable, and then never say that in public. Never say blue fairy dust. Now I have to go change it because I just told you it's blue fairy dust. But in that kind of thing, early on, like I said, the same thing. We joked about Clinton being a deep fake. I work in a fully remote company. I hadn't met my CISO for about 13 months. He could have had no idea if he was actually meeting me or someone else. And I joked, I said, I'm going to authenticate myself by saying chocolate somewhere in the conversation. So it naturally comes up that I use the word chocolate somewhere in our conversation and I validated myself. Like just
Nice.
stuff like that. I mean, they're once and burn. So once I say it, you can't use it again. It's like the code book during Nazi Germany. Like you can't repeat the code book.
Yeah.
It's intercepted.
Yeah, that's cool. Speaking of people you haven't seen in a long time, I don't know if everybody knows here, but I do a podcast called the Shared Security Podcast with Tom Eston, and he's in Ohio, and Kevin Johnson in Florida. We started it in 2009. I met Kevin a year and a half ago for the first time. I have not yet met Tom, so I could get a deep fake with Tom, one of my podcast co-hosts who I've known for 15 years, and that would be weird. But I've launched the next poll question. I'll just share it on the screen here for a moment. Here we are. And it is which departments in your organization have been or do you suspect have been most frequently targeted by AI-powered attacks? So it's all the functional departments, and just like to hear where people think these things are actually happening the most. So for the next question, how are organizations preparing employees for prevention and detection of advanced AI-based attacks? So I know that Jason does a lot of work with Jason and Clinton both do a lot of work with at Breacher AI with their customers who are you know, they're testing those executives and people. What are you typically seeing as the approach that organizations are taking when it comes to helping them understand these threats?
Um, security awareness training, we're seeing a lot of the larger companies do interactive based training or sessions. Um, so I think that's a great approach, is basically just doing a live deepfake so people get an understanding of the look and feel. We're seeing simulations come up more often, people reaching out just want to understand how vulnerable they are as well. The thing to keep in mind with these, and this is one of the things that we're finding, is that a lot of this is policy, procedure, and process based, right? You have controls around financial transactions, for example. In cases with deepfake, the new threat, I think, one of them is authority bias. People are compelled to act on it, and it may overrule those policies and procedures. So as an example, like we can initiate a wire transfer, overruling by doing a CEO impersonation. So I think policies and procedures and process are one of the things that you need to focus in on for training your employees as well.
That's interesting. So you guys can actually social engineer your customer executives into sending you extra money for more deals, right?
Love that.
And I mean, may as well mention it. I mean, you guys do some great work on this, and if people are interested, you know, reach out to Jason and find out how you can have those deepfake penetration tests done, basically, right? To see who might not realize it, but they're vulnerable to this kind of attack. So
You,
I
you
think
wouldn't
it's
believe how little trust I get when I tell people I deep fake people for money. It's really a struggle.
yeah. I can imagine. I can imagine. All right. And Fleetus, I think you shared some ideas on this already. Anything more you want to add? Just
I think the biggest thing is just knowing that prevention is not 100%. So it's
Mhm.
really going back to detection. We've talked about enough security awareness. Anyone who's been in the field for long enough is going to have one user who's going to say,
Mhm.
your security, you could have stopped this for me. Why did you not stop this? I'm going to blame security. I'm going to blame IT. So it's just helping them understand that we're
Yeah.
in this together. I have security in my title, but security is also what you do. So it's that pause, be skeptical. Joked with someone yesterday. Maybe just put your hands behind your back for 3 seconds or 5 seconds. So you're not tempted to touch the keyboard or to click the
Yeah.
link or to navigate or to download that piece of software that the help desk is asking you to do, the remote support is asking you to do. It goes a long way. It's contrary in 2025 to tell someone to slow down.
Yeah, it's what I call the age of rapid information sharing, right? People they want to click the reactions or the shares or respond for to be more productive.
If I could just interject just for a second, like Fleetus, you are on it, man. Like having code words with people that you know and care about. The NSA, the FBI have come out with an info sheet for government agencies to prepare for just this, deepfakes. And they talk about training and defect detection, and they also say what you say, come up with a code word that you can share that you'll understand. But I want to take a step back and think about what it is that we're saying there. We are telling what a dystopian world we're in, that we're telling people that you can't trust if that is your own family member calling, or that it's somebody that you've known for years and years. This is not a normal thing that we're telling people. And
Yeah.
and I think some people can hear some of these slide decks and think it's a normal thing. This is super stupid that we're doing this, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think we have to take a little bit of extra time to. I mean, and please, did you have code words with every single person you know that might call you? Your family, great one, but like I got a bunch of friends. I can't keep up with code. I can't remember all my passwords. How am I
Yeah.
supposed to remember code words with everybody I know?
Yeah. It doesn't work on scale. This is where I
Yeah.
talked like
Yeah.
Scott and I did something like this early. I think this was probably in 23, 24. We talked about when first deepfakes get out. This is the thing. It's exponential. So right now there's what, 5 of us on this call. So now you got to do exponential 5 times, like to the fifth, 2 to the 5th power. That's
Yeah.
how many key exchanges we just had to have for Zoom to work right now. because of encryption.
Yeah.
Same thing applies in the real world. So it works with like your trusted contact. So I would tell my C levels, this is the conversation you have with the CFO. This is what you have here. And that's to help there. But when it comes to vendors, it comes to friends and family, that code word is not going to work. But I'm trying to protect my inner circle, which is going to protect their inner circle. And that's where that slowing down and pausing and saying, hey, is Fleetus really in Mexico right now? Or can I just pick up the phone and call Fleetus? Like the first step is to call your grandson. Does your grandson answer, or call your son and say, hey, is Fleetus actually in jail? Like getting people to stop and actually pick
Yeah.
up the phone and call the actual person. Hey, is Fleetus actually in Mexico today? Oh no, he's sitting on the beach in North Carolina right now. He's fine. Like getting people to stop and assess.
Yep.
Same thing with like clicking on links. It goes back to the security awareness that Chris said. Not everything has to be done when it hits your inbox. I think you guys are probably working that done a little bit of research on your company and others. We live out of our inboxes sometimes. We're instantaneously clicking. It's okay to let something sit because eventually your gateway is going to catch it or your ML engine will find it. If you give it enough time to get its heuristics, its updates, I can pull it from your inbox once my Intel updates to know that this is the pig slaughtering that I joked about, or not jokes, jokes bad, campaign that's happening where they're trying to get you. It's like the romance scam. They're just trying to fatten you up so they can slaughter you. So they're trying to entice you because the scam first started with a text message for Hong Kong. They got them through text. So it was a smishing attack. And then it was a multi-step process to get that money out of Hong Kong. So that was multiple opportunities for the security awareness and that user or users to stop and assess. That's the biggest thing, is stopping and assessing.
Yeah.
And then knowing who to call. That's why I advertise a lot, and I'll shut up in a second, to have a friend or a buddy. Does this sound too good to be true? Like,
Yeah.
I'd rather you call me and ask me, wake me up in the middle of the night before you click and give away $1 million or $100,000 because Brad Pitt's in the hospital and he needs medical bills covered.
Yeah, we need deep fake buddy systems, right?
Yeah. Can I just add to that real quickly? Because I know
Yeah.
you want to move on, but I have a practical defense strategy, which just talks to exactly that. It's teaching employees to recognize and resist artificial time pressure and urgency. It's so hard. We had a thing here at Circadence. Mike Monitz is the president of the company. You don't often hear from him, but we got these, everybody's occasionally getting these messages. Hey, it's Mike. I really need something quick. Can you help? And everybody goes, oh gosh, it's the CEO of the company. And I'm being blessed by God. Here I'll respond really quickly. And, it was a fake. So yeah, that urgency thing, it's really what kills you, I think. You feel
Yeah.
the need to help real quick. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I just launched the next poll. I'll review the question in a second, but just to add to the comments, I think it is scary now that it's getting to the point where we can't really trust, more and more of our communications on a daily basis. And I used to joke, a year ago that I'm kind of scared about the future because at some point we're not going to be able to trust anything unless we see it in person, right? And that
Sad but
I'm not
true.
sure how far off we are from that, but it seems like it's getting close.
I wish you could select more than one on this poll, though, because there's a couple of those that are really key. I mean, let's face it, executive voice and, impersonation is pretty much what I got from Mike Monitz. But, government authority impersonation is a biggie too. I get these CRA emails all the time. You're not compliant, and you go,
Yeah,
oh,
but
your
are they
reactions.
deep fake? Is it as important that a deep fake government or a phone company or somebody is trying to get you to pay something? Maybe
s-
not. I don't know.
Are you trying to say that I actually do owe CRA money? I better look into that. No, yeah, I
No.
hear your point of view, but I mean, it could be, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll leave it
So
alone.
the question is, which specific deepfake attack scenarios concern you most? Or as Chris pointed out, there's only one choice here, but we have enough people, 20 or so people. There should be a bit of a distribution here, so we'll find out which ones are the most important. So or most scary. So we'll move on to our last open question for the panel. What do you think AI-powered attacks against employees will look like in the future? How are they going to change? Will they just get incrementally better and better, or will there be new things that we haven't thought of? Has anybody got any vision for what that's going to look like in the future?
Yeah, I think it can be multi-channel attacks. We're focused very much on email and spam still, phishing emails being the attack, but I think we'll see more of almost like a framework. We're looking at you from many different angles. all looking extremely believable. So instead of dealing with one thing, you're going to be dealing with a multifaceted. You might be getting an email, you might be getting a phone call, you might be getting something in a Teams chat. So then because there's so much of it coming at you, it seems like it's legitimate. So I've just done some reading on that it can start to expand its presence in multifaceted attacks. Make sense?
Yeah, I think so. What do you guys think about that?
100%.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be multi-channel. I think it's absolutely correct. Mobile is another kind of VoIP systems is another gateway in. The immediate sort of near-term horizon, the thing that really kind of scares me right now is agentic AI, right? It's you can combine deepfake audio with agentic AI and then execute an attack for an automated system. And I think the way that it'll manifest itself is first, we're going to get these spam phone calls from extend your car warranty using agentic AI. And it's going to evolve into phishing, social engineering, and basically chatbots that go after employees. And I think we're not too far away from that happening.
That's a good point. I actually
yeah.
want to just slow you down for a second, Jason, because I'm not sure everybody understands what you just said. So agentic AI is what you were saying, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So think of a chatbot, which is hooked up to artificial intelligence, which can converse with you back and forth. And the crazy thing is it can make logic-based decisions, right? It can complete the context. Like, it's think of it as like a super smart chatbot that can actually complete the conversation, give it a prompt, and say, get this person to install remote access on an endpoint, right? And then let it go and it'll do the rest. We're actually about to do this to a bank in about an hour with agentic AI, deepfake, remote IT impersonation, and it's terrifying. Like this is a thing that freaking terrifies me right now. And I don't think people are aware of it yet.
I want to ask you a question then, Jason, because something else about the ability for the bot to communicate like that over a period of time. But OS int was always, what does OS int stand for? I just dropped it.
Open source intelligence.
Thank you. That was always a technique that hackers would use. Gather as much information as they can about you, but AI can do that on steroids, right? They can just look at vast amounts of information, and they can do it on the fly. So that's the other part. I think that adds to what you were just saying, is that the AI bot can not only be conversing with you,
Absolutely what we're doing right now.
positioning itself and learning about you during the conversation and knowing. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah,
Oh, no, I was saying that's exactly what we do. Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead, Glenn.
No, that's exactly what we do. I mean, we've got in the near future, we hope to call somebody at an organization, have a conversation with them, clone the voice from the person we just spoke to, learn that information about what they just said, and then call somebody else, the next call with that voice, all automated, all with an AI doing.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go to Jason's point and Clinton. So you probably heard my story earlier. That's what we were doing is we took the segment of a voice, we played in, and if you really listen at the end of it, it gave enough clues, and I don't have the recording because a friend of mine did this together. It mimicked a podcaster that everyone knew. They were good friends with. He's like, "Hey, I'm in tough times. A car broke down. Hey, can you just wire me some crypto?" Your first thing, tire breaking down, call me. That's fine. But now all of a sudden you're wanting crypto. And every time it would ask a question, it would answer the question. But instead of just answering the question, it would immediately ask you to send it crypto again. So it kept giving itself away that it was giving crypto, but it would answer your question. It would say, "Hey, yeah, I'm sorry about that. I understand that you're having a problem. But by the way, can you send me that crypto?" And then I was like, "Hey, can you send me the wallet key?" And because it wasn't trained to give a key, it couldn't give the key because the model wasn't prepared for the user to actually say, "Send me the wallet." And because it didn't have the wallet, it couldn't present the wallet key. It just kept getting into a loop. So we were able to get the bot, to Jason's point, into its own little, we looped it. We looped because we were able to trick it by social engineering it. So that's where my thing is we're getting into IoT. And now I'm worried about mesh networking. More and more stuff is meshing. You're going to have more stuff like your Google Play, your Apple Play, all the stuff that's now in that smart IoT devices that's now following you from your phone to your computer, now your car, eventually into your appliances. That's where I see this moving into is your refrigerator is going to convince you to do something. Someone's going to compromise your smart fridge or your smart washer and dryer and do something.
Yeah, actually, it actually makes me think of even bigger risks that may not necessarily be malicious to the to our normal thinking. But if you imagine everybody has an agentic inbox manager, right? And I get an email from Fleetus, but I don't know if it's from Fleetus's AI, but my AI takes care of it and sends a reply back, and and Fleetus's AI, so like we're not gonna have to do email anymore, right? But what's the consequence of that?
Yeah, I think to that point, and then we'll move on. That's already happening. Like I was interacting with someone's bot, to Jason's point. Like I got stuck in their bot. Like it was monitoring their emails, it was monitoring their service desk, their Zendesk field, and it was trying. And then finally it said, I need to get a human. It finally told me who it was. It's like I need to escalate this to a human. Instead of escalating to a rep, the bot was trained, I need to escalate to a human. So it finally told me, and we were able to figure it out because we were dealing with a support case and they had put triage, level 1 triage with their chatbot. Their chatbot was monitoring the inbox, the Zendesk for the email request, as well as their website chatbot. So I give them credit. I mean, it's automation is key. And I think and I'm trying to draw a blank on the company right now. They said they're not going to hire a person unless the hiring manager can prove AI can't do the job. So there's companies out there proving you can't backfill certain roles unless you can prove that AI cannot do the role in which you're hiring, aka a help desk, a service desk, a technician.
That's really scary.
Salesforce, I believe. I think it's Salesforce. I may be wrong about that, but that hits on a really good point. I'm sorry, I'll shut up after that. I think these roles which are going away, right, because of AI, is going to lead to more fraud longer term, right? And that's the vicious circle that we're about to hit. And the other thing that I think Clinton kind of mentioned this at the beginning of the call, like the quality of deepfakes as well as crossing that threshold where it's uncanny, right? And people become less guarded and more kind of susceptible to social engineering. And I think that's what we're going to see in the near term is that the quality, the ease, and it's kind of a perfect storm that we're coming up on. It's pretty scary moving forward.
Yep. Any comments from the chat that we'd like to comment on? I haven't had a chance to really review it, but do you see anything in there that you'd like to comment on? Thomas said he's listening to the webinar, finds it fascinating and concerning. How can we counter the FUD factor effectively? That's a really good question, actually. That's tough. How do we educate the board without scaring the hell out of them?
I hate FUD. I hate doing it, but I think people need to be aware of these threats. And I don't think the board level, at least from conversations, they're fully aware of what's capable of AI today. So a layer of education is absolutely needed first and foremost. And it doesn't have to be scary. It can be real world examples and then quantify the risk and the financial impact and loss. So 603,000 in finances, that's a very significant number. And that's the average so far. And I think that's how you quantify it to the board is that a BEC is 50,000, right? A deep take attack is roughly like anywhere between 5-10x for just one incident. So I think financial risk and transaction is how you always speak to the board level without the FUD aspect.
Yeah. The other thing to that too, it's always getting it back to ROI or business impact. So being bilingual, talk business and talk cyber. So I always tell people if you get in the elevator and a C-level asks what you do, they don't want to know your job title. They want to know what your role does to add value to the company. So make sure that when you give your sales pitch, you're saying, I do blocking and tackling to help protect our organization from X amount of threats to help save us X amount of dollars by allowing you to be more proficient at your job because I limit the interaction. So something like that versus I push firewall rules. I put snort rules in. Don't give them the technical terms. Tell them how you're adding value.
The value is so important.
And
good for you.
FUD's going to happen eventually. FUD at some point, like we've had people. I can scare my own self. I work in this field. The more and more I think about this stuff, I can get myself real antsy, real scared, real paranoid. But then the adversary is winning. When I get to that point, I've lost control. So don't use FUD in a way to get control. Use FUD as a sanity check of what you're actually trying to do. What is the fear? What is the uncertainty? What is the doubt that we're addressing as an industry? Not just to get the board member to give you that $1 million to buy those 3 tools or the $10,000 to go get a training or a conference.
Yeah, it's good point, Fleetus. The way I've thought of FUD recently is, FUD is a problem if you're trying to convince somebody that they're of something that they don't really have a problem with, right? But at this point, we're way behind, and I think there is justification, and sometimes, as Heather said, sometimes you just have to scare them, or you don't get their
Well,
attention.
it's like I said about the 83% have more than one breach. That's got to talk to somebody on the finance department because these breach, you can see numbers of 15 million, 30 million, whatever the number is. It costs a lot of money. And if it happens more than once, somebody should be certainly worried about that, you know.
Yeah.
So that's, that you don't have to make it the fear part, but maybe you play on the uncertainty, gee, are we certain
Yep.
we're doing the right amount of training?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I
Yeah.
gotta say one thing and then I gotta drop.
Yep.
It's ensure that the focus is on the right problem, right? There's a lot of talks about budgets, finance, right? And everyone's focused on the new shiny tool. And if you look at the data, right, fundamentally, majority of phishing, social engineering is a leading cause of a breach. 2024 DFIR data, any way you slap it, it's increasing. 2025, I'm sure will be the same picture. Social engineering is a leading cause of a breach. Allocate some of that budget to awareness and educating your user base. It is so bizarre to me that we focus on a tool, which is a major investment, and we neglect the educational aspect for user base, because that awareness and education not only protects your business, but they can take that and they can take it home and
Yeah.
apply it to their family, to their friends. And it is so impactful. And it gets me frustrated. Like, educate your user base, invest, and that's not even money, like invest in their awareness and education fundamentally. Step number one. I'll shut up. I gotta drop, but thank you all very much.
Thanks a
See
lot
y'all.
for joining us, Jason. Take
thanks,
care.
Jason.
Bye.
So, yeah, thanks for all that input, folks. Just a really quick message about ClickArmor before we move to just the results of the polls. And just wanted to let people know, ClickArmor is a security awareness training platform designed for high engagement, for helping people envision what the risks are like, keeping them engaged so that they actually pay attention and retain that knowledge. It can be done at the learning level, just at the engagement level, getting people started. It's just something a little more fun and engaging than what they're used to. But when you get to the end, you're really actually able to show people what the threats will look like in the future. And we're actually working with Breacher.ai, Jason and Clinton, to help them with their clients as well. So I would love to talk to anybody who has an interest in improving security awareness to kind of address these issues that we talked about, because we have a risks from AI module, and we're certainly able to tailor content to your particular types of threats and needs. So reach out if you have an interest. So now, just to finish up our poll results, looking at the question, has your organization experienced an AI-powered cyber attack in the past 12 months? Most people said no, or at least over 12 of them did. Fewer number had suspected, and only one, I think, said they had definitely confirmed. So that's interesting. It's not in the mainstream yet, but certainly there are concerns coming. Which departments in your organization have been, or do you think have been frequently targeted? So the most targeted looked like finance and executives, then human resources, IT security, customer service, sales, and then R&D. That's interesting. I don't think that's a huge surprise to us. And which specific deep fake attack scenario concerns you the most? So this is the one, you should have had a chance to check off more than one, but let's just see what's the most popular one is employee impersonation, and I can't even remember what it was. Just let me check here. It was employee impersonation for system access. So that's something that Jason actually talked about, and interesting that that's come up. It's one that I hadn't really considered to be as big a scenario. So really interesting. I'll open it up to the panel first before we sign off, just to say any final thoughts on either the poll results or anything that we may have covered today.
Before we sign up, there's just a quick little thing I wanted to share.
Yeah.
And it's really a little silly, but can I go ahead and do it?
Oh, you want to share your screen? Sure.
Yeah. It just talks to deepfake.
People are just leaving in a minute, so just we'll keep it short, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very short. I just want to say, here's a picture I took of a buddy of mine back in 1976 in front of the Trump building on Yonge Street in Toronto. And I created, there's a tool I used. It's an AI tool that took that still photograph and turned it into this, which is pretty cool.
We're
to
not
be able
seeing anything yet. Are you sharing?
Oh, yeah, I did share. Sorry about that. Sorry, Scott. Oh, yeah, sorry, that button there.
There we
So
go.
this is a photo I took of Jim in Toronto. Can you see it
Okay.
now?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't get any little boner. Anyways, yeah, and this was back in 76 in front of Trum. It was on, this is Yonge Street in Toronto. And I took it through an AI engine that I use, and it turned it into this, which I think is pretty cool to be able to take a still photograph from.
Oh, made it into a video. Yeah.
And, really what I wanted to share is sure, deep fake, but that cost me 50 cents to do. That's exactly. And I just want to say that if you can do that for 50 cents, imagine what you can do with a real budget
Yeah.
with the right source material. That was just one still photograph turned into a little animation. And it just, to me, I look at that and it kind of blows my mind out how it can be used nefariously. But anyhow, thanks. Kate.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks
my
for that.
closing remarks is just stay safe, stay secure, be inquisitive, and just know you're not in this alone.
Yeah.
This is not a one-man shop. This is not something that you have to walk alone. This community right here just shared stuff with you today. There's other communities like this. Reach out to them, ask questions, and just be aware that people, process, and technology, we do need to focus more on the people side of that equation. But with that,
Yeah.
I'll drop for another
Yeah.
call myself. Have a
Excellent.
great day.
Thanks a lot,
Yeah.
Fleetus. And
Thanks, everyone.
I got to drop
just
too.
Yep, thanks, Clinton. So just to wrap up, love to just have people share in the chat, what they think they might have learned today that will change how they do things. Is it going to cause you to reach out to somebody for help or information, try a new approach, do some kind of new analysis, or just think about things differently on how you're going to work in the future? So happy to have people share that in the chat, and letting you know that we do record these sessions and we post them. If you're not a member of the Cybersecurity Awareness Forum community, you can join and you'll get notifications of our upcoming sessions as well as recordings that are posted. And we'll have discussions in there as well sometimes. Let me know if you need to go back to that at any time, but I just wanted to get to the last slide so people can see next session, May 14th, is communicating with there's a typo there. Communicating across functional teams about cybersecurity. So that'll be a fun one. I know Fleetus is passionate about this topic as well. Just looking at the approaches we can use and understanding the different functional areas so that we can communicate better with them about cybersecurity. So we'll hope to see you all there next time. Sorry we went over by a minute or two, but really happy to have people join us today. I'll be around for a minute or two, but take care until next time. Remember, engaged employees reduce risks. So talk to you next time.